Hi, and welcome to Q's Workshop. Today I'm starting a restoration project. So I received these three items from a friend of mine. He managed to save them from the bin. So obviously he knows me very well. I'm a sucker for old tools, so he gifted these to me. So in today's video I'm going to focus specifically on this back one. But these two front ones will have restoration videos of their own. But if you can guess what they are, pop it down in the comments. So this one on the right hand side was originally produced by Precise Engineering out of England, and the one on the left was produced by, if I have it correct, iFanger or iFanger out of Switzerland. So if you can guess what these two are, pop it down in the comment. But yeah, I'm gonna focus on this back one. So this is a 600mm caliper, Mitutoyo Caliper. So there's not really a lot of restoration work really required on the caliper itself. There's a little bit of rust here and there that needs to be cleaned up. One of these little knurled screws for the locking of the fine adjustment is missing. So I'm just going to have to determine what thread that is, if I can purchase maybe a screw that I can change over, or I'm going to just have to single point cut it. It's very fine. I've never done something that fine, so that will definitely be a challenge. But ultimately this it still looks good, so it should clean up nicely. The casing, on the other hand, needs a bit of work. So I want to try and keep this as standard or as rustic as it currently is. I don't want to do a massive load of cleaning on it. Obviously it's got the aged look, and I really want to keep that. So what I'll focus on is probably the hinges. I'll get some new hardware for it, so the clasps and things like that, get that sorted on it. But the main part is this bottom piece of plywood. It's starting to split, so I'm going to look and see if I do peel this up, what it looks like underneath, if that can be cleaned. Otherwise I've got a piece of plywood that I can replace on the bottom here, which I think might be needed because I can actually see it cracking through those pieces that's missing there, so that will have to be cleaned up. But that's probably the biggest piece of work on here, and then just sanding the rest of it, maybe applying some oil or varnish to it. But yeah, that's going to be today's project. Is trying to get this restored and back to its younger self. So stick around. I'm going to start with the box, because that's probably going to be kind of the simplest, resource intensive part of things. Kind of getting wood prepped and varnished and things like that. So while that is drying, and I can actually focus on the caliper then. So yeah, let's get cracking with this. A lot of these screws are so rusted, there's no thread left on them. Now to start off with the bottom section. So it looks like it's got staples, so it was probably maybe some glue, hopefully very little, but there is staples in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and see if I can get these staples removed and see how easily this bottom part comes off. That appears to be all of them. Okay, let's just do this top one. So this one, I'm just going to see if I can just sand it down a bit. So I'm going to keep that one as is. This one, let's see if we can get this. This looks like a split. There's another one. Missed that one. Right, so I've got it stripped down. I took most of the remaining wood here, just tried to get it off with the chisel, just that it makes it a bit easier for the sanding. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is just sand this down a bit, just to get some clean wood and marks and things like that. I'm not going to sand it a great deal to get marks and things out. It's just to kind of get the wood a little bit cleaner, that it can take the oil that I'm going to put on. I've marked all the corners just so that I know which way it goes back together, because it has loosened up. So I'll probably just pull this apart just to make it easier to sand it, because it's a bit wobbly, and I'm scared I'm going to break the joints on the side. So I'll probably just keep it loose and sand them down like this. Alright, so let's get on to sanding these nice and clean. Alright, so this is all sanded and ready to be glued back to the new bottom. So I got this piece of plywood. It was standing in the garage on a shelf for quite some time. It had a whole bunch of bottles and things on it on the shelf, so there are a couple of marks on it, but I just lightly sanded it. So we've got this side that's nice and clean. So I think I might actually make this the inside, and then just keep this to the outside. And it doesn't have a lot of marks and things on it, but we'll keep that to the outside. So this is the original edge on it, so I'm going to put that to the front, and then this back edge that I cut, I'll put to the back here, but it does need to be sanded down a bit. I did leave it a little bit big so that once it's on, I can sand the edges down to make it fit perfect. But I'll use this front edge as the gauge for where it needs to sit. I'll also get a square just on these sides, because the sides are loose. I'm going to glue these, and because they're loose, I just need to make sure that it's not standing skew or anything like that. So I'll get those measured with the square. These can come out for now. Right, I've also got a staple gun, but it's just got little needle nails in it, very small nails. Let me see, just open this up. It's got small little nails in it, so I'm going to use these. So once I've got it glued up, I'll use these just to keep it in place. Alright, so I'm just going to get some glue on these edges, and then we'll start with the rest of it. Okay, I just changed the camera angle a bit. I'm just going to get some glue in here. I've got the boxes, so this one's all dry now. This one so both of these I just sanded them a bit off camera, so on the one side of this where it was overlapping a bit, I just sanded that flat and then just cleaned it up, rounded the edges a little bit. Same with this one, cleaned it up, rounded the edges. So what I want to do now is just get the first layer of varnish on here. So I'm just going with a darker varnish because of the marks and things on it, because I couldn't get it all a uniform color. Now I know I want to keep it as original as possible, but I also, because I couldn't get these a uniform color, I'm just going to darken it with the varnish a bit. So I'm going to do the outside of this first. Then once I'm finished and it's dried, I'll just give it a light sand just to get any rough spots off, and then I'll give it a second coat. Yeah, let's start with this piece. I'm also just going to tape this closed for when I get to varnishing the inside. I'm just going to tape this name little badge closed. I think I might have gone a bit too dark with this, but never mind. Alright, that's the outside done. So I'm just going to leave this to dry, and once that's done, sand the rough spots and then give it another coat. Right, so next up is just cleaning some of the old hardware, so the hinges and these little corner brackets, just to clean them up on the wire wheel. These I'll have to probably rebend them, some of them are bent. Alright, so that cleaned up pretty good. Okay, so that came nice and clean. Just bent it open a little bit more that I can just clean in the inside there. That looks good. Right, so these are all varnished up and dry. It's probably not the best varnish job, but it'll do. Obviously, as I said, I wanted to keep some of the aesthetics for the age. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get all the hardware fit, so the hinges back on, these corner plates back on. So I oiled them, so they're all in here. I just rolled them up in some paper just to keep them oiled. So I'm going to fit those back. Got these little, so that's all the old hardware that I took off. Got some brass screws that I dug out, so these are old brass screws, so I'm just going to use these. Stuck this name badge closed. so there are already holes here, so the screws that I'm using look a little bit bigger than the ones that were originally on here, but we'll see how they screw in. So obviously the ones that I took out were half rusted away already. Right, so next up is just to do the clasp. So I filled in the holes with just a toothpick. So just hammered a toothpick in there and then cut off the tops of it just to make it flush. Just because these holes are smaller than, oh sorry, the hole itself is bigger than these little screws that I'm going to put in. This is the clasp. I originally purchased chrome or nickel plated clasps to put on here, but they were too small, so it wasn't going to work the way that it would fit, and even just the look, it wasn't going to look right because they're just way too small. So then I got these. So I'm just going to use the same holes to mount these. Now that it's all together, next steps is, so I've got some of this felt that I used to line some of the drawers with. So I'm just going to cut strips. So these top ones has full line strips on it for basically going over here, and it holds the caliper in. And then on the bottom here, I'm just going to put in this little groove. I'll put the felt. Okay, I just got a piece of plastic just to brush it a little bit. I'm going to get my fingers soaked with glue. Right, I'm going to start cleaning these pieces up, and so the bigger pieces I'll probably at least throw them all in, but I'm going to start with some degreaser. So I've just got a little container with degreaser in, so I want to put them all in there and just have them sit for a while, because they have got, you know, all these pieces have got grease and things on them, or oil, and I went way too long, but I just want them to sit for a while, and then brush them a bit, and then we'll get, so I've got the wire wheel Dremel, or I've got that, and then I've got a whole bunch of these that I ordered, so just little wire wheels. So we'll use these to clean this up, and we'll see how that goes. Right, this has been sitting for quite some time now. I've just been swirling it around every now and then. So let's get into cleaning those a little bit, see how much grease and grime we can clean off them before we get to the wire wheel part. Okay, next up is the wire wheel. So I've put one of these little brass flat wire wheels on the Dremel. These bristles, so the brass bristles are finer, at least they feel finer and softer than the stainless ones. So I'm just going to start off with this and see how that goes, especially with these where there's some dirt still in there in the knurling, but it's also got a bit of a blemish to it, so see if we can clean that up. Alright, so next I'm going to take the tape off and then put new tape on, but the idea is I want to make little holes. So I'm going to punch little holes where the screws are so that the screw can stick out above the tape, that I can clean the screw with the wire wheel and again not scratch the scale. Hole didn't come out right. Okay, I think that's as far as I'm going to go with it. Let's see if that cleans up. Okay, just get some acetone. Okay, at least I didn't hurt the scale on it, and that seems nice and clean. I'll be putting some anti-corrosion or corrosion protection oil on that, just to keep them from rusting again. Nice. Okay, looks good. Alright, now that all of this is cleaned up, I want to assemble this, that I can get it at least into the box, and then I'm going to attempt to make the little knurled locking nut for the fine adjustment. Alright. Right. So that's it, at least for restoring it to the way that it was. Now next up is just that little screw. Let's go take a look at it. Right, I'm here on the lathe now. I'm going to attempt to make one of these little knurled screws for the caliper. So I've taken some measurements of this. I've just wrote it down on the whiteboard just above the lathe. So I'm targeting the outer diameter is 12.2. The stock that I managed to get is 12, but I think once I've got the knurls raised on it, it'll probably be 12.1, 12.2 anyway. So I'm just going to go with the stock. I mean, that's this piece where the knurling goes is, I mean, the size is irrelevant really. So I'm just going to go with the stock. Otherwise, I've got to cut a bunch off bigger stock. Was the size. The next size up that I have is 15 millimeters, which is not a great deal bigger, but I'm just going to have to take a bunch off. So I thought I'm just going to start on this, knurl it, then clean up the edge a little bit for the threading, because that's going to be the biggest challenge, is getting that thread done. Right, so let's get going. Okay, well that's not a very coarse knurling, but it doesn't need to be. I mean, it's not like you're fastening it down super tight on the caliper. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to clean this section up here in the middle. I'm going to leave a little bit on the end so that I can keep the live center on for when I'm doing the thread. Okay, we got it on 4.85. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to leave this section here where the tailstock is, or the live center is. I'm going to leave that section. I'm just going to come in a bit, and then I'm going to work down this middle section a bit further. So the size that I require is 2.9 millimeters. So I'm going to take this section down to 2.9. The threaded section itself needs to be only 10.3 millimeters. So I literally only need this last little piece. So what I'll do is I'll clean this up here at the end to 2.9, and at least we've got some rigidity with the live center still being there. Okay, we've hit 2.98. I'm not going to take off any more. 2.97. I'm not going to take off any more. I might just clean it up with some emery paper. Okay, that was just a spring pass, and it actually did clean up a bunch on that pass. Let's just measure and see what we've got here. So that measurement comes through at 2.91, which is, I mean, I'm looking for 2.9, so that's not bad. Okay, let's measure at the other end. .85. Okay, so it is a bit narrower on the back end here, so I think I must leave it there. I'm going to part it off now, and then clean up this other side. I'll probably clean up this section with the knurls quickly, get that all nice, and then part it off and take it from there. Going to saw this off quickly, and then we'll take a look at the part. Right, well, there it is, all done. So I just cut it a little bit shorter than what it was. The inside is still a little bit rough, but you're not really going to see that, and I don't want to mess around too much by the thread. This side, just shined it up a little bit, and this is the original. So the original's knurling is a bit different, but I don't have that kind of knurling cutter. But yeah, it came out pretty good. Already fitted on the caliper, so it's got a little bit of oil on it. But yeah, it was... I mean, I've never done, I'm not saying that it's perfect, but I've never done threads so small on the lathe before. It's a little bit loose. I could have probably have left that last pass that I did, but it was kind of one of those that if once I cut it off, then I can't do another pass on it. So I thought, let me just do another one, but I guess I should have left it in hindsight. So there it is, and it does screw. So if I loosen this one completely, you can actually see that, okay, so this one's not completely tight, there it's completely tight, and it's fastened. And then what you would do is you would fasten this one, and then you would use the fine adjustment screw here to move the caliper backwards or forwards for a fine adjustment. Otherwise you'd loosen that one and then just measure like that and fasten the one on the front. Yeah, that's it. I think that came out pretty good. I'm happy with that. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.